This is BofC Live, the video and podcast series of Business of Cannabis. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com. Coming up on our BofC Live segment, Thomas Winstanley, the Vice President of Marketing at Theory Wellness, will be on to talk about how the markets in Maine and Massachusetts differ from one another, how Theory Wellness approaches marketing, and how the Northeast cannabis market is developing right now. This is Thomas Winstanley. Thomas, thanks for being here.
Jay, thanks for having me, man.
Well, before we even get into Theory Wellness and all that you do, know that two of my favorite places in the world are Massachusetts, where I am from, and Maine, where we like to go every summer. So it's like, you know, it's a little piece of my heart that we're going to talk about today. A little slice of heaven, those two New England states, which, fun fact, are the only two New England, well, Maine is the only New England state that doesn't touch Massachusetts.
Wow, I didn't even know that. No, yeah. Damn.
Because right, like as you drive north from like Boston,
takes notes here.
You hit New Hampshire, and then you get to Maine. That's all.
That's interesting. Yeah, one of my favorite billboards in New England is actually the one that is in between in between Mass and Maine. It's like there's one billboard on that stretch of corridor, which I've had many discussions over.
Yeah, it's a quick hit. So Massachusetts and Maine, you guys operate in both places. First out, like, are there differences between those two markets? Like, do you find that people want different things, that marketing is different? Like, are people different consumers in each place?
Definitely. So I think a lot of it comes back to the difference in consumers comes back to the way that the legal programs came to fruition. So, not unlike, they're not totally dissimilar from, both of them had very robust medical programs that then transitioned into adult use. The way that the medical programs both came into, the markets were very varying degrees of regulation. So in Massachusetts, very regulated, lots of rules and restrictions. The Cannabis Control Commission really oversees a lot of these operations. In Maine, it was a little bit looser. Plant counts were different. Using metric is something that they're still not doing. And so in a lot of ways, Maine was growing a lot of wonderful cannabis that was for medical use only. And those consumers are really, really advanced because of the proliferation of access was much broader by comparison within a medical market in Massachusetts. And so intrinsically, you have a much wider audience segment with a lot of different products in Maine that maybe are a little bit more advanced than what Massachusetts had early on. And they definitely have different wants. I think especially when you look at price comparisons, Massachusetts is a little bit more expensive than what you're seeing in Maine. And so I think you have a lot of different consumers. And then also the homegrown network is just incredible in Maine. I mean, some of the best growers that I've ever used cannabis from, I mean, some of these cultivators are some of like the best cuts of Mac 1 I've ever had. Some of the best White Buffalo I've received out there, and I've not actually seen a lot of competitors who are cultivating at the level that Maine does, which is also strange because you're like, Maine of all places, a low populous state, but and again, I think it's an interesting thing because Maine also doesn't have the draw that Mass has from New York or Connecticut because they're not getting that population density coming to them. So definitely two very different markets, but they have a lot of overlap. And we're still learning. I mean, we learn from our customers in each of these markets what they want, and we try to react accordingly. They're different, but they're the same in certain ways. A lot of it came from the come up.
Yeah. And also even the way you just described the cannabis approach, it actually reflects the state's personalities themselves, I think, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, even the
Very
growers
so.
in Maine, right? The legacy growers in Maine, it's a pretty, I would say, libertarian approach to life, which is why many people like to live there. It's very, very rural, aside from some very small towns. Although we were in Portland last summer, and there's cannabis around, like it's, and the dispensaries are there and not hidden, not unlike some, B or C level real estate, like, Main Street type of stores. So it was interesting to see. And actually in Massachusetts, it's like that, but it's actually less like that. Like my hometown, the dispensaries that we were talking about in Bridgewater, where my sister lives. There's one of your shops. So it is interesting to sort of think about, you know, emerging markets, which I think mimic what more the next wave of markets will look like in New York and other places. It'll look much more like Massachusetts than it does California and Colorado. Is that your take as well?
Very much so. Yeah. I mean, and I think a lot of it is just like there's a causality of regulation that is now proliferating where, you know, back when Colorado went legal, it was kind of an experiment for, you know, like, is the federal government going to do anything about this? It's like, no, they didn't. Right. But I think every step that is now taken, the federal government actually has a little bit more involvement on regulation, whether it's the federal government or the states themselves. The states, as you see these new regulations coming out, a lot of them are getting a lot more stringent. You know, New York is going to have a really, really tight approach to the number of caps, who gets a license, you know, their restrictions on vertical integration. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I guess like Oklahoma is another kind of an interesting case too, where it's just like, it's just why it is like Oklahoma is the Wild West. I mean, I was talking to Exotic Mike from Exotic Genetics, and he was saying it is unlike any other market, which is still a relatively newer market.
Right.
And I also think too, there's something to be said for the East Coast and West Coast divide too. I mean, you know,
it affects everything. It affects every product, right? I mean, and actually, that's the interesting part. Obviously, you know, Massachusetts and the realm is fairly, you know, it's been a number of years that it's been legal. Maine is, I think, a little bit behind, but now we see this Northeast, I don't know, group of states, right, that are now in a rush, right, because New York is going, and you're down the street from New York, in Western Massachusetts and New Jersey and Connecticut is happening. And actually, you know, I'm actually interested, sort of thinking about where you are located, where your headquarters are, or where you are. You know, when you drive on the Mass Pike in Western Massachusetts, you see a lot of cannabis advertising, and it's not the most populous part of Massachusetts, but it's obviously advertising to people on their way to and through. Right. And totally. Those people are from Connecticut, New York, and heading maybe to Massachusetts, but also heading to Vermont and New Hampshire and all that. Like, how much does that factor into sort of how you market like to out of staters or people passing through? And how does that change as the states around it start to legalize?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's difficult to answer. I mean, because I think in a lot of ways, we don't think so much about marketing as like, okay, well, I want to get New Yorkers to come to us. And like, that's going to be my goal with my marketing, is I want to make sure that I get these people to do this one action. We actually look at it a little bit differently. We're like, okay, let's figure out how we design the coolest, like 5-pack pre-roll tin. Like, let's really think through, like, as a consumer, what do we really want to have? And what is that experience? And I think a lot of where we look at our marketing is that if you build it, they will come. If you do interesting things, you will get attention. If you take a strategic approach around your customer service, you're going to create wins. And so we always try to, it's almost like, because this is not like any other category I've worked in. I mean, I've worked in CPG, I've worked in pharma, where it's like, okay, here's your audience demo, and then you're going to go at this person. You're going to try to get them to bite on a line of copy that is going to resonate with them. And for us, we almost have a little bit of a liberty in that, well, nobody's really has expectations around what our marketing should be doing, aside from promoting products that we think are really great.
Right.
And we've actually worked really hard to focus really, like, how do we get our operations and our brand aesthetic cohesive and feeling like, okay, this is a reflection of what we want to be producing, and these products are a reflection of who we want to be as a brand. And then the audience starts to come with some of that. We also are super cognizant of, like, for a long time, we were the closest dispensary to New York City.
Right.
Like, that naturally is going to have a lot of halo effect for us, you know, on the marketing side. And what we're really focused on is that knowing a lot of the marketing vehicles that are traditionally used, like AdWords and social, and these things aren't really variables that we can rely on to say, okay, well, I want to spend money on the 45 to 54-year-olds to come to visit Theory. We can't really do that. So you were almost tasked to be able to be like, okay, well, build a really good brand and let people naturally come towards it. And then when you do have opportunity, capitalize on it and treat that opportunity with respect. So I say this more of like a 10,000 foot view is like, yeah, I'm more focused on like, how do I get my like pre-roll tube to like look really clean with black on black?
Yeah.
And what ultimately happens is that we also build really good marketing foundations. So when people visit us, we make sure that we can capture what we can capture, and we also stay engaged with them. I'm not a department that's like set up 50 automations and just like hammer people.
Right.
We honestly use, my team knows this, like our expression is only speak if you have something important to say to your consumer. Like, I don't want to push a bunch of messaging and send an email every day and a text message every day if I don't think you're going to want to hear what we have to say.
Right.
And that's also really worked well too. And that's also kind of within the spirit of our brand too, where at the end of the day, our founders are two 34-year-old guys who love cannabis. And our whole focus has been, how do we make this something that we all want to enjoy as cannabis enthusiasts? And that's been a lot of our governing North Star. And that approach, I think, has resonated with people who are in, Albany or New York City or, Hartford. And I think they come in and they go, oh, these guys, like they kind of get these guys know kind of what they want the industry to be. And they know where they stand in this industry. And that for us is really, for me as a marketer, man, like that's the dream. We are living the dream, day in and day out. And we know when to capitalize on opportunity, and we push boundaries, and we've had a lot of firsts. We're one of the first beverages in Massachusetts to come out. We had one of the first outdoor farms on the East Coast that was regulated, which was a huge risk. And a lot of that too is like people are curious, and we invite people to come learn more. And, and I think holistically, we're running an operation where at all different levels, everybody's very much on the same page about what are we here for. And I think the consumers feel that too, and they keep coming back.
Talk a little bit about that, because as you talked about, the word that comes to mind is like, it's a respectful relationship between you and your customers, which matters. And when you have something interesting to tell them, you tell them. But I guess that actually goes to new products too. Like you talk about the beverages, right? Like this is one thing that Canada's done extremely well, because it's extremely capital intensive, is like we have tons of beverages, and they're really good. They were bad, and now they are really good. And we have like all up and down the, ingredients and all that stuff. But like, talk about that, like when it is time to roll out new products, whether it's outdoor grown or whether it's beverages, whatever it is, like it's easier to turn on, I would imagine, to say, look, we actually have something to tell you. It's something really unique. Come now.
Yeah. And that's really what we're doing. We're always looking for, we're never kind of, there's not a lot of complacency with us. We're always looking to kind of figure out, okay, well, how do we do this better? Like we started out with one line of CO2 vapes, and then we started messing around with live resin and flash frozen. And we're like, dang, this is actually a really great product. And then honestly, Jay, we'll send an email out to our audience and say, if you've bought a vape in the last 6 months, we'll send vape users an email and say, what do you like about our vapes? What do you not like about our vapes? Are there brands that you've seen that you would like to try? Are there extraction methods you're interested in? And truthfully, we can have our own opinions, which count for a lot, obviously. But then if our consumers like, hey, actually, you know what? These live resin extract pens that I've been getting out in Seattle are incredible. Would you guys ever do something similar? And we'll say, oh, that's really interesting. And then, 6 months down the road, and we're like, hey, we have live resin pens. People are like, damn, like you listen to us like crazy. And it's ironic. And we're always kind of looking at those, we're looking at trends, globally, because if people really like something enough, you'll know. And if you can scale your operation to create those kind of wins and provide these resources or these products that people want, that's awesome. And people will tell you what they want and what they don't want. And they'll also tell you what they want to hear and what they don't want to hear too. And so
the unsubscribe is pretty powerful.
Yeah. And we're fortunate where we've got a very robust mailing list, and we're still averaging like a 30+% open rate with, close to a 10% conversion rate on our website. And those are big, those are really, really powerful numbers in a marketing space. And so we're really cognizant, because we also know if we're working on a product, we're not going to put the time and energy into a product if we don't think it's going to do well.
Right.
And we do, we go through, our marketing teams are only good as our product development teams. And my role works really closely with product development to see this journey from like, hey, let's go make this thing, I'll go do research and try to find out, is there proof of concept behind this idea? Let's go ask some people. Let's go get some test products. Let's see how this goes. We'll also bring it to our employees and say, hey, we made this. I mean, I no joke, I don't have one with me, but we are testing a new product and it's a metal can with a single label. And our employees are like, what is this? And then they give us really good feedback, and we'll go back and reformulate till we get to a point where it's perfect. And by that time, when you say, hey, we have this new thing, our audience is like, ooh, tell us what it is. And we want to know. And, you know, and that makes it really easy for us when we say, hey, new product drop, you know, high five seltzers, come and get them. People get really, really amped. And so
I'm amped.
But that's good.
I got big plans this summer. We'll be driving through many of your locations. I'll be right by, both in Maine and Massachusetts. So I'm gonna plan my trip accordingly. We'll meet you there.
Well, yeah, no, by all means, man. And honestly, like, we'll show you the facility. I mean, we'll show you where it's like every time I walk into our production facilities, it's literally like going, like, I feel like one of the kids in Willy Wonka.
Yeah, it's
like
even better.
It's even better, yeah. And then it's like you see your branding come out on something, and you know, our High Five seltzers. I mean, what was amazing about that is that was one of the first seltzers launched on the East Coast. We sold 1 million cans in 9 months. I mean, and that is beating most craft breweries annually. I mean, that's just like ridiculous.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, we also, I think we do a good job of finding the balance of like, let's just not produce for the sake of, let's not create solutions to problems that don't exist.
Right.
Let's create solutions to problems that do exist, and let's make sure we're being conscious about it.
Well, as soon as we're here, I'm going to send you the dates, and I'm going to be driving through. It's going to be gangbusters in Great Barrington. I'm just kidding.
Oh man, I'll open the door for you, Jay, and I'll meet you there.
Great, be totally great. I really appreciate the time. I'm going to leave it there so we can connect this summer and put out another video. I appreciate the time. We look forward to meeting you and seeing you. Thanks for the update of what's going on there, and nice to connect.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Jay.
You got it. That was BofC Live. If you like this program, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us wherever you find your podcasts. We're able to do what we do because of ongoing partnerships with Alterna Savings, Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmark, Ken Delta, Gallagher, Headset, and Torque in Maine. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com.